The center out here was it was a circle, and you could come in and go around, drive around the circle where they like a little park in there. It was very nice and very pretty.
Located on a 500-acre tract of land south of Marshall, Texas, Sabine Farms was just one of a vast number of programs created by Franklin Roosevelt's administration. The economic collapse of the 1930s created huge employment problems in both urban and rural areas of America. Unemployment reached 25% by 1933. Cotton fell 400% to a nickel a pound. At the time, no one knew why it happened or how to solve it. The New Deal had a mandate to act. In the first 100 days, dozens of experimental programs were created.
The New Deal, it seems to me, was a patchwork of the art of the possible. The Roosevelt administration came in and they were just trying to do something, anything. And so they just started creating programs right and left.
Progressive policy advisors joined the Roosevelt administration, and they developed a program of subsistence farming and planned rural communities as a way to offer relief to unemployed workers and displaced farmers. They also believed in the Jeffersonian ideal that living on the land was healthy and morally superior to life in the overcrowded cities.
Agricultural specialists and agricultural social scientists believe that if given funds, given credit, financial resources made available to them, small-scale farmers could become very efficient, even just on a small scale. What you had was different parts of different government agencies improvising planned rural communities.
The fact that it was for black people made it even more significant, because I think of all the ones that they did, maybe more than 200, about 13 of them were all black, and Sabine Farms is the only one in Texas. So it was quite unique, quite unique.
And these were the offsprings of those people who were in slavery, and it was a chance for them to become self-sufficient, and they did.
In Texas, 80% of rural blacks were either sharecroppers or tenants. Sharecropping was notorious in that it provided no possibility of a sharecropper ever saving enough money to buy land.
A sharecropper would bring only his labor and the labor of his family, and in return for that they received 1/2 of the corn and 1/2 of the cotton. Tenant farmer brought a little more to the table. Tenant farmer would bind the family's labor as well, but he might bring a mule, he might bring a plow, and so in return for his labor and that of his family, he would get 2/3 of the corn and 3/4 of the cotton. And so that was referred to as farming on the 3rds and 4ths.
Back at that time, it was kind of hard for black people to get land. But see, the government made it available for them. My dad wasn't able to save up too much money. That's one reason he left the sharecropper, wanted to get something of his own, where he could save him something and accumulate something. You couldn't accumulate anything on a sharecropper.
Mr. Crawford's dad had learned about, and he told Daddy about the property that the government was, the developing farms in this area.
The Resettlement Administration is going to be the agency that initiates Sabine Farms starting in 1935. So it's going to be one of 3 communities that will be set up in Texas by the Resettlement Administration, and the only one that's going to be all black.
There was tremendous competition by cities throughout America to win one of the resettlement communities because it was a huge infusion of cash into a local economy. The government purchased materials locally and hired local workers to build the houses. Marshall, Texas applied for a project in 1935.
Dr. Matthew Dogan of Wiley College knew the administrator of the program, and so he went to Emory University, and he talks about my people and 174,000 people in East Texas that could benefit, et cetera, et cetera. So of the 10 African American farms, he is able to snare one. It's the only one west of the Mississippi for Harrison County.
It gave black farmers an opportunity to own their own land and to learn how to farm and to be successful and independent business people. And I think there were a lot of successes.
The Resettlement Administration purchased the land, constructed the houses, lent money to clients, and provided advice and assistance. In Sabine Farms, an African American Civilian Conservation Corps prepared the land.
This is the way that whole program worked. The Resettlement Administration offered for a very small fee a house, an outhouse, a barn, 2 mules, a wagon, and all of the farm equipment, 2 cows, and money for pigs and chickens. And all you had to do was live on that land for 5 years.
They were new houses and they were pretty houses. Now some of those houses were way back in the woods, but they were pretty houses. They didn't have no indoors bathroom and stuff like that. All the bathroom was outdoors, but it was nice.
They were very pleased about it because they loved gardening and chickens and had fruit trees and barns and storage houses and things like that.
As part of the experiment, the government provided expert advice through the Texas Agricultural Extension Service. Farmers received the latest reports on crops and prices, and the wives were visited regularly by home economists.
During the 30s, the Resettlement Administration home economists had more of a captive audience, but they were still teaching those basic homemaking skills of food for your families, clothes for your family, and when a woman could provide those sorts of commodities for her family, she was helping to raise their economic level considerably.
They had home economists to help people with the canning and sewing, and they had agriculture person who worked in agriculture to help their planning, and they had some real good farmers, and they helped to establish a place where they could sell their commodities like cucumbers and potatoes and that kind of stuff.
The Farm Security Administration believed that an active community center was vital for the success of the new farms.
I mean, it was all by design. They didn't just want to take people and put them out in the rural areas and be economically efficient. I mean, that was part of it, yeah, and to raise enough to help them get by and all of that. But people consciously thought we need schools, we need local stores that everybody goes to, we need community center to be the heart and soul of it, to provide things such as sponsoring dances, showing movies, being a general gathering place for meetings, holding dances. That's the glue that would bring the community together.
The Farm Security Administration believed that an active community center was vital for the success of the new farms.
They commit 20 acres to building a community center that includes a lot of services that are not available to that end of the county.
Well, that's where Bishop College was involved in at that time, because they always had people from the college who came out to help.
The new president of Bishop, Dr. Rhodes, gets his academic dean, Dr. Banks, to run an entire program out at the community center at Sabine Farms. And so they teach agriculture, they teach hygiene, they actually have a school out there, there's a beauty shop.
And then they brought out books from the college and set up a library to help you learn. And the home economists had weaving and sewing classes and also canning classes. They had people, educational people, to come out and help at that community center.
There used to be a doctor would come out there. They had a little nursing outfit, and that's where we would get our vaccinations and shots and stuff.
And then when we got a store in the community, that was really special because before then you had to go into town all the way down to Panola County.
It was the only place of its kind around. And I guess at that time I didn't really understand how unique it really was, especially for black people.
That was our recreation place. The summertime, 19th of June, 4th of July. We had good times down there. We used to have nice times down there. It would be a crowd of people there.
Everybody would look forward to that because, as I said, they would barbecue all night, you know, and then someone would cook the meat. And then they would have this, they have like a store station where you could buy ice cream and then where you could get your soda pop. And then they had music in the assembly hall, that huge assembly hall where the children could play games, you know, could play and dance. And
it was the hub of activity for that day. And people came from far and near, you know, to participate in the activities there. I think they used to have fairs and they had, you know, all kinds of things going on, plays and things like that. So people came from everywhere because it was so different and so unique.
Sabine Farms thrived for 30 years, but government support ended after 1945 when the Farm Security Administration was disbanded. The economic boom associated with World War II spending created millions of jobs in the cities.
The New Deal years could be seen as the experimental period where they're seeing what works, what doesn't work, and all that sort of thing. They could have expanded them to the several hundreds into the thousands. They didn't because of the congressional resistance. That's why there weren't more communities than there were. Congressional support for it was not there because of the cost concerns, but especially the ideological concerns, the idea of the government getting involved in this business. It was new, and there were some that embraced it and large numbers that were resistant.
This idea of collectivization and communism, it just wasn't American to be giving land to people who needed land. And so the Resettlement Administration was mired in difficulty from the very beginning. But it was a wonderful, noble idea. It didn't have the funding that it needed to reach very many people. I mean, we're talking millions of landless farmers, and the Resettlement Administration was able to reach only a handful of them. But like so many other things, I think that for a substantial minority, it probably made a real difference.
Today, the grounds are overgrown with weeds and the buildings are collapsing. The Sabine Farms Educational Society is attempting to restore that heritage.
that building was a dormitory for men who were getting instruction on auto repairs and mechanics and farm equipment. The ball fields on further out. It had grown up so, and the last time I went around it, I didn't recognize it.
And what we are doing now is we are trying to get the place cleaned up. We want to be able to salvage hopefully one of the buildings or some portion of one of the buildings. And we want to be able to share with the public, you know, our history and our legacy. Because, you know, as I said, as I've gotten involved now, I understand more about what it was, why it happened, and the benefit that it was to the people who were part of the project and also to the community, because it was very valuable to the community.